The sponsor of my stream and podcast is DistroKid. If you want 10% off on your first subscription with DistroKid, release your music to the world on every major music platform. Make sure to go to my website, andrewvanzark.com, and click on the discount link under the tab of DistroKid. The information on this podcast is my opinion and some internet research.
Galaxy's most popular movie is great family entertainment.
Huh? Aren't we listening to Galactic ChatWave Radio? What is this whistling? I'm confused.
Hosted by Andrew Van Zark. Now you're listening with power.
Thank you. Now we can start listening to the show. I was so confused.
May the Force be with you.
Alrighty, hello, and welcome to Galactic ChatWave Radio. My name is Van Zark, and this is your safe space to discuss Star Wars, music, and other geeky topics. So today's topic of the day is USS Enterprise versus Millennium Falcon. Who would win? Let's get ourselves head to head and see what happens and how we get things flowing and running at this point in time. You know, we have so many things to get ourselves ahead, right as of right now, and so many questions to be told. You know, I've been having such back-to-back responses from people around me and people on X.com, and I do want to, you know, have a lot of things in mind when it comes to this. And we have to always have a clear idea of each one of them, as you know, as each fandom and each franchise portrays them. You know, we do have to get it flowing and running in that direction. You know, because if we don't understand how the USS Enterprise works, or we don't understand how the Millennium Falcon works, we won't understand how we would get things flowing, how we can compare them and see who would win on a space battle, if I might say so myself and put it that way, you know? So, why don't we get ourselves flowing and running around this area, and we get ourselves into it. So yeah. Alright. So, the first thing we have to keep in mind is that each franchise portrays space battle differently, you know? There is some certain physics that we have to understand from Star Trek, and some physics we have to understand from Star Wars. We have to go both ways. We have to understand each direction and each sort of style, you know? That's how we understand things better. At least, in my opinion, you know? So, let's get things flowing from that point of view. Alright, first things first. Star Trek is a bit more grounded, and we have to understand that in so many shapes and forms, you know? So that being said, we have to understand that the way that Star Trek works, it's just advanced technology, similar to what we have in Earth, but just advanced, just futuristic in many different shapes and forms, you know? So that being said, we have to keep that in mind. So if we compare the logistics of each one, it's completely night and day, you know? Let's get ourselves here a comparison. So the logistics of Star Trek versus Star Wars, it's one that many have questioned in many shapes and forms. It has always been a form of discussion since forever. So let's get ourselves running and flowing with that. All right. So in Star Trek, the technology that we have, it features replicators, machines that can materialize virtually any object from a blueprint. You know, this eliminates the need for vast stores of supply and simplifies the logistics, you know? And Starship's crews can replicate food, spare parts, and even medical supplies. That's a way grounded way to understand the technology of Star Trek. So in Star Trek, the way that things flow is through, exploration, and by exploring, they understand new things. They get into new directions, new places, new flows, you know? That's how they understand everything within Star Trek. So at this point, we are trying to get ourselves adjusted to Star Wars. So what can we say from Star Wars? You know, Star Wars has many ways that we can analyze things and get it flowing in different directions, you know? So let's get ourselves flowing that way. So Star Wars, on the other hand, it's a bit more greedy space faring and resource management, you know? Unlike Star Trek replicators, Star Wars relies on conventional resources. Starships needs to carry supplies for extended journeys and logistics. And they play a crucial role in maintaining fleets and outposts. The Empire, the dominant powers, utilizes massive star destroyers that likely require complex supply chains, you know? And it makes a lot of sense for all that kind of stuff.
Alright, well, ChatWave, man, I'm gonna be real with you. I saw this space, I saw the question, and, man, it's the Enterprise.
Oh, you think the Enterprise would win?
I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm both a Star Wars and Star Trek fan. But I'm infinity times more of a Star Wars fan than I am a Star Trek fan. Star Wars is practically one of the core foundations of my identity. That's how much of a Star Wars fan I am.
Right.
Mainly being a George Lucas fan makes me a major Star Wars fan. But that aside,
right,
if we're just talking about the capabilities of the Falcon and the Enterprise alone, the Enterprise is more advanced tech, the Enterprise is faster, and overall it's a future ship. And I don't mean like Star Wars takes place in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Star Trek takes place in the far future.
Exactly.
And, yeah, so it's like the Falcon does have some advantages, considering that the Falcon can go to hyperspace. It's not just traveling faster space, it's also traveling faster time. So when you go to hyperspace, you're going in another dimension outside of normal cosmic space-time, and then you're entering a different part of, like, say, the universe at a vast distance of space-time. So you're technically time traveling when you're using hyperspace in Star Wars. But what would take light years could take like a couple months or a couple weeks, couple days, you know?
Yeah.
Light years is a long time in space. But the point I'm getting at here is that it has that advantage, but I don't know how much Star Trek you've seen, but Enterprise has also had time travel scenarios, and the Enterprise understands how space-time works in and of itself more than the Falcon does. It's also more resistant to cosmic scenarios compared to the Falcon. The Falcon overall is advanced for being a starship compared to tech we have, but compared to the Enterprise is far more. Star Wars, they have it's more science fantasy, so they have the space magic on their side. When it comes to Star Trek, they have the technology on their side. They seem to be a lot more advanced technological-wise, especially with their lasers, which are a lot faster than lasers in Star Wars, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's, yeah. Now, if the Force was involved in some way, like if you had a character using the Force, then I'm pretty sure that would give Star Wars a win. But we're not talking about the mystic.
Right. Exactly. If we put it that way, the Enterprise. All right, never mind. I'm just gonna keep you. I'm just gonna keep you with the microphone of the iPhone and not record you as is.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, I'm just saying that I'm just gonna keep you like just on the iPhone as is, because for some reason my mixer today is not cooperating.
Your mixer? I'm sorry, how does that work?
Alright, so I have a mixer connected to the computer so I can have all the microphones working correctly on the radio station. Then I have this small interface connected to the phone so I can hear you clearly perfect on the radio station. But at this point in time, it's not working whatsoever. It's not cooperating. It worked last time, and it kind of annoys me that every time someone gets in the show, it's when my equipment decides to say, I'm not going to work today. But when I'm by myself and no one tunes in, my equipment just works flawlessly. So it makes me seem like I'm just a novice, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like just a noob, but I'm not. You know.
Maybe the secret societies don't want to hear anyone else on your podcast but you.
Exactly.
Anyone that could say anything suspicious. Okay, I'm just messing with you.
All right, so we do have this guy here named Lucas Legacy, and he's clearly a legacy. That's why the secret society doesn't want him around.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Gaslighting for me already.
I guess you're meant to be gaslighted.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm surprised I haven't been, disappeared yet. They should know where I am, so it's like I wouldn't be surprised if they make me disappear in some way one day. When that'll be.
I don't know, maybe someday you'll get the man in black and they're just gonna knock on your door and be like, you didn't see anything, and we're taking you to our secret basement.
Dude, man, that would be insane.
And instead of
literally, there are documentaries where people talked about men in black suits that would show up in front of weird scenarios, cover up the evidence, and push the citizens away. And it's like, apparently that's where the term men in black came from, because the average person would see these men in black and they would just say this is government business and shove you aside and shit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like, man, as an ardent believer in the truth about how this world really runs, I'm willing to bet the Men in Black are in fact real, and the other reason why Men in Black became a popular film series is to make the average person believe that there's nothing significant about that term.
Exactly, and it makes a lot of sense. But then again, we've been trying to raid Area 51 so many times, and now they're supposedly telling that there is aliens around, and me talking about Star Trek and all this stuff and Star Wars, it just makes me realize how many times Star Trek had it right.
ChatWave, dude, did you hear about the people who did the Naruto run in Area 51?
Oh, yeah. Now that was legacy.
I'm not just a Western geek. I'm very well versed globally. I'm a big anime guy as well.
Oh, for sure.
I'm pretty familiar with Naruto. But that aside, you don't even have to be very familiar with Naruto to know what the Naruto run is. That's very popular meme-wise.
Exactly. Same with the Sonic run.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was in 6th grade, that was all I could do. Do the
Naruto run?
No, the Sonic run.
Oh, the Sonic run? Yeah, but a lot of geeks, just a lot of kids, a lot of young people like me decided, hey, we're gonna Naruto run down Area 51. They got forced to leave by government officials.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, It's a funny thing in many shapes and forms.
The irony is, what's another popular series that also goes into aliens at some point? Naruto.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Star Wars, Star Trek, Naruto. Aliens are pretty significant in human culture.
And in pop culture, it's everywhere. Everywhere there's an alien. My favorite cartoon is Futurama, and there's aliens everywhere.
Well, I said this before. I think I'll say it 1,000 times. If you believe in aliens, you believe in gods. And if you believe in gods, you believe in aliens. If you don't believe in aliens, you don't believe in gods. And if you don't believe in gods, you don't believe in aliens.
Simple as that.
And that's basically because the term alien or space alien as we know it is known as extraterrestrial, which is being outside of Earth. So any being that wasn't born on Earth is an alien. And gods are not known to be born on Earth. They're known to create the Earth. The only gods that are born on Earth are demigods. And
right.
Yes, Christians, Jesus is technically a demigod. He fits the description. I don't care how mad you get about it. God mixed with mortal creates a demigod. That's basically what a demigod is. So it's like most top tier that aren't born on Earth but create the Earth or create the universe and space itself. Technically, they fit the definition of alien. they're aliens. And on top of alien meaning extraterrestrial, which means being outside of Earth, usually gods are known as omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, which means that they're everywhere and they can see and do everything, which means that basically they're also extraterrestrials by definition. They're outside of Earth, they're inside the Earth, they're everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. So gods are aliens, and this is why my friend, he's Christian, he told me that he doesn't believe in aliens. How do you believe in God when you don't believe in aliens? It's like, there's a God, but there's no aliens. I'm like, okay. Sure, buddy. Whatever you say.
I think that you have to believe in so many things, and it's impossible that there could be so many planets and galaxies and not have more life forms around.
Right, yeah, there's just, the idea that there's all these empty planets and Earth's the only one with life. Yeah, I'm not even using that argument. I'm just saying that by the definition of alien, that's the description of where gods normally fit. Whether you want to argue they were born somewhere else or they weren't created on Earth. If you believe in them, if you believe they came from space and made the Earth, they're alien.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that most of the things that we know nowadays could probably come from some of those planets and whatnot.
Oh yeah, no. I'm honestly, certain scientists have this perspective that the gods we worship, the religions and cultures and mythologies we serve, these are advanced aliens that have interacted with our ancestors or whatever, and as a result, we ended up worshiping them, and every single god we worship is our ancient aliens. That's a common scientific belief, and if we interact with these species and go to other worlds and connect cultures and stuff, we'll be advancing, in terms of evolution. And that's that's often a common modern scientist perspective on the concept of gods, although it's subjective,
Mm-hmm. It is very subjective in so many shapes and forms,
Yeah, it's usually an atheist reasoning for the concept of gods. They're not really all-powerful, all-knowing beings. They're just advanced civilizations that live on worlds beyond ours, which maybe that's true, maybe the other's true, maybe both are true. I don't have a hard time believing both are true, actually.
Neither do I. I don't discard the possibilities of aliens, but I don't hardly believe in them. It's just that
Hey, ChatWave, man, I go by the saying, magic is just science we haven't discovered yet. I wholeheartedly believe that.
You're saying that all these occult weekends have some sort of connection to the aliens?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying that if every time I see a person praying to a rock, they're connecting with the aliens?
Oh, gods are aliens, so I don't know what to tell you. Aliens are gods, gods are aliens.
So
I don't know what type of alien they are, but they're aliens.
What if Q is around the world and he's just fucking with us?
You know what? The Q is our Lord and Savior. Bow to Q.
Live long and prosper, man. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. I think Q is a godlike being in Star Trek, technically.
Yeah, he can shape into anything. He's literally everywhere. He can turn into like this big
omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent seems to fit those descriptions. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
but Q pisses me off in so many shapes and forms.
Q pisses me off too. If Q is actually the real god this entire time, and I'll be like, okay, well then it makes sense why the world sucks. Q's an asshole. So.
For sure, Q's a fucking asshole. When he turned into a military man, I was like,
yeah, like if all of existence was created by Q, I'd be like, okay, this all makes so much sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It sure does.
Yeah, man.
But I've read books with Q and him. I've seen a vast majority of Q, and he pisses me off to a degree that I wish I could just slap him on the face and make him come to senses.
I've never met a Star Trek fan that Q hasn't pissed off.
So I'm part of the mainstream.
Yeah.
So he's meant to piss you off. And since you've seen The Next Generation completely, what was your opinion on the second episode
of the first season?
Yeah,
it's been so long since I've watched Next Generation.
So let me do a summary of the episode. I saw it yesterday, and I'm still completely baffled. I made some short videos and I posted it on my page.
Yeah, go ahead.
And the second episode of the first season, it's literally they go and search this other spaceship that has Starfleet people like engineers and stuff like that, and commanders and whatnot. And they get infected by the same virus that was running on that spaceship that got them all killed.
Okay.
And the virus made everyone, and I'm not even exaggerating, made everyone horny.
Me so horny.
Literally. And then Jean-Luc Picard getting close to the doctor and being all horny, and then seeing the doctor trying to take off her shirt. It's like, what the fuck? And then seeing Data getting dirty with the engineer. What's her name again? The strategist? I forgot her name.
Yeah.
The girl with the short hair.
I gotta rewatch Next Generation. It's been so long, man, since I watched it.
Oh, it goes places. It goes places.
Yeah,
I'm more used to the Kelvin style of Star Trek, and when I came to the classic Star Trek world, I'm like, this is another world.
No, yeah, I know, yeah. The Kelvin Star Trek, even though I've known and watched Star Trek before those movies came out, Kelvin Star Trek is technically my comfort zone when it comes to the entire franchise. And I'll probably get hate from classic Star Trek fans for even iterating that, but it's true. I can't lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
especially, but go ahead.
So it's weird, and you can clearly see the distinction with the original and the Kelvin stuff. There's a clear distinction.
Right.
It's more actiony.
No, it is, and that was on purpose. That was meant to get your average modern person into Star Trek, because it's like I told you in that other space. Star Trek is a particular taste. You know, the idea of sitting around having philosophical discussions, long discussions. You know, it's like most people. Well, I can't say most people, but a lot of people, honestly, wouldn't be interested in that only. So it's like to have action happening every 2 minutes. It gets your average normie and, gets them into Star Trek. The downside is that because they went in that direction with it, a lot of purists of Trek basically said they were trying to mirror Star Wars too much in modern sci-fi action movies, and they hated the movies for that reason. Mm-hmm. But the Kelvin films do touch it. They do touch on a lot of the philosophical themes of the original series and Star Trek as a whole. They tackle those things, but they give you a very surface level, basic idea of it. They don't linger on it for too long. They keep it casual because they're trying to market to casual audiences. If you get into actual classic Star Trek, you'll actually have to really critically think about these things. And while the Kelvin films do touch on them in some pretty interesting ways, they don't tackle them like the classics do. And I think that's another reason why purists didn't like the Kelvin movies. But I love the films. Mm-hmm. I always will.
I've been watching on Pluto TV a lot of the original Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I came to the point where they meet some space hippies. And I'm like, huh? What the hell? Space hippies? Well, what do hippies have to do with all this? and when I started realizing what their point was with the hippies, they're trying to find answers and trying to find what's out there. And they stumble upon to the Enterprise, and they get beamed up. And I'm like, isn't that exactly what everybody is doing in Star Trek? Just trying to find what's out there?
Yeah.
and the space alien hippies, they even get acquaintance with some of the crew members, and they even get kind of, virusy, if you know what I mean.
Right.
With one of the crew members, I forgot his name. The one that's always with Spock.
Yeah.
He gets,
Science.
Yeah, he gets frisky with one of the aliens.
Oh, frisky.
Yeah, and then the alien says it was so hilarious that the alien says to the dude, "Please be wrong next time." Being wrong is being with her, and then the guy says, "Be correct next time, please, so you can be with me."
Right.
And I'm like, contradicting. So ironic. Being with an alien is wrong, but an alien being with a human is right.
Why not?
Why not get frisky with an alien? I'm not gonna deny that.
Star Trek is not known for its consistency.
Nope. Every show seems completely different.
Yeah, no, and Star Trek was purposely meant to be episodic,
And it should be episodic, but because every time you explore and you experiment, you actually end up finding new ideas and new things. Unlike Star Wars, where they keep this idea, there's a religion. Religion is, static. It never changes.
Well, here's the thing about Star Wars. Star Wars has a essential core theme made by George Lucas, but the subjects and the topics and the ideas, at least under Lucas, were meant to explore new concepts and explore new approaches to storytelling. There's a reason why Lucas said that he tries not to focus on the same planets each film he does. He tries to explore new worlds, and he tries to explore new types of genre, like the whole Camino thing in Attack of the Clones being a whole detective mystery. That's something that George didn't approach before in Star Wars. So it's like George tried to take various concepts and ideas and genres and balance it all around the core essential theme of Star Wars. So it's like, well, we are tackling new ideas in Star Wars. The core message is the same. And that added to the timelessness of it.
Exactly.
Star Trek. Yeah, but it's like it goes back to the foundation. Star Wars is meant to be science fantasy. There's some sci-fi in there, but it's mainly science fantasy. It's a space opera. It's a tale. It's a mythical sci-fi fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
And Star Trek is meant to be plain fashion sci-fi, science fiction. There's meant to be experimentation, challenging even the core foundational ideas of Star Trek, and trying to experiment. It's basically the sage versus the scientist,
Yeah, similar but different.
Yeah, exactly. It's different perspectives on the same thing, and it's like it goes back down to the fact that Star Wars takes place in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Star Trek takes place in the far future from now. So it's like these franchises are based on completely different eras in the universe. Yeah, so there's that too.
Star Trek takes place in the 24th century.
And Star Wars takes place so long ago. I don't even think we can date it.
Nope. Not at all. It probably was even before the Big Bang.
You know what? I'd be willing to believe you.
Probably. It makes a lot of sense. But speaking that Star Wars is space fantasy and Star Trek is more science fiction, if you look at the hyperdrive or the warp drive in Star Trek and the hyperdrive in Star Wars, you see that most people in Star Wars, when they go hyperdrive, nothing happens to their body. They don't feel anything. They just warp somewhere else. And when you look at it at Star Trek, when they go to warp drive, every crew member feels weird, feels affected, feels like woozy and drunk.
Well, it all goes back, like hyperdrive and warp drive are very similar, but hyperspace, which is what happens when you hit hyperdrive, you enter hyperspace. This is another dimension outside of normal universe space time. So it's like you're entering like a It's like you're entering a limbo state between reality and non-reality. That's what hyperspace is like. It's like the Speed Force. Are you a DC guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's hyperspace is kind of similar to the Speed Force, an alternate dimension where fast people can run. It's like outside of space and time. That's what hyperspace is like. It's been a long time, but I'm not sure what it's like for warp drive. Like, I'm wondering, do they go really fast, but they're still in space time, or do they actually enter another dimension outside of space time and like re-enter when they're done? Because I've heard hyperspace is based on warp space, but it's been so long, I don't remember.
What I've acquaintance so far with warp drive is that they just simply make the ship go extremely fast to a degree that a spaceship going at regular speed wouldn't be able to catch on, but they're still in time and space.
Right, yeah, they're not in this alternate dimension outside of time and space, because that's basically how it works with Star Wars. It's like that's how they space time travel. They're entering out of reality at a certain point of space time, only to re-enter at another point of space time in a completely different area of space. So that's how they move fast. It's basically teleporting.
Yeah, that technically is, and it's interesting how none of them get affected in some shape or form. Yet when they do it in Star Trek, it shows you that it does affect it. It is a possible thing to go in warp drive and go really fast, but you're gonna feel a little woozy.
Okay, so apparently warp drive is just plain technology, and it's a machine meant to design. It's a machine designed to manipulate space and violate the laws of motion. So, based on that, what I'm understanding is that hyperspace is a dimension outside of space time that ships can enter before re-entering the galaxy or the universe at a different location at a different time period. Warp drive in Star Trek is just plain technology used to manipulate the cosmos to go faster in general. I don't know if they go in another dimension or if they just go really fast. And that's why
it's just that really fast. Kirk and Picard in different points in times, they actually do explain it indirectly.
Yeah.
When you see the first film,
they generate warp fields to form a subspace bubble. Okay, so with warp drive, they just create these fields to form a subspace. I guess it's similar. I wouldn't say it's the exact same, because with hyperspace, that's a literal existing dimension. No technology is creating that. That just exists outside in between the universe and time itself. But with Star Trek, they're literally creating these fields to create a subspace for them to travel through. So yeah, it's not the exact same.
Nope. And in my opinion, warp drive seems more pleasable and more plausible and more real. And hyperdrive, we're still trying to grasp ourselves where could that happen.
We can't even leave our own galaxy, and that's the thing. Star Wars explores concepts beyond our comprehension. That's why when people go into the Force, when George goes into the Force, he talks about midichlorians and the wills. It's like, these are other dimensions that we can't even reach. This is mystical, divine shit. This is godhood. Like, that's stuff that, outside of our function of reality, and it's stuff that we don't have the type of technology to prove. It's all faith. That's what I'm talking about, how Star Wars and Star Trek are polar opposites.
Exactly. I was talking to my brother earlier, and I'm like, I don't understand, why do they, other than coming out in the similar era in humanity and in Hollywood, but I was wondering, why do they compare Star Trek to Star Wars? Even they sure do have similarities, but for the most part, I think they are completely opposite.
Yeah, it's like comparing Doctor Strange to Iron Man.
Yep. They're both Marvel superheroes, but that's about it.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is mystic like Star Wars, and Iron Man's all technological like Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they can all go really fast, but in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. But I honestly think you need one to have the other. Like, this is why I theorize this when it comes to like religion and science or faith and evidence and stuff like that, magic and science, all that stuff. You need the myths. You need the myths for the hypothesis. If you don't have the myths, that's not going to inspire people to try to prove to see what's real. And if you don't have the hypothesis, we won't evolve. So it's like, if we don't have the myths about how we perceive reality and what we don't know, we won't have the inspiration to try to reach out and discover what's true and what's not with science.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, Star Wars and Star Trek come complete each other.
Now that you put it that way, it does make sense. Because when you try to see their counterparts of each side of each franchise, you do find comparable. This guy seems similar to this other guy from Star Wars. This guy seems similar to this guy in Star Trek and whatnot. Like, for example, you could clearly say that Data is the equivalent of what C-3PO is.
If you ask me, though, Data's a far more interesting person or more robot than 3PO. But yeah, no, you got a point there.
Yeah, they're both programmed to know a lot and help.
Yeah, exactly.
And Data just seems interesting. And going back to that second episode of the first season of The Next Generation, when he ends up having coitus with the Starfleet strategist, he says to Picard, "Oh, I found out I am completely functional. Yes, I do have lots of programming, more than I knew." And then he smirks up to Picard, and I'm like, "Oh no, what have we done? Why are we adding sexuality to this?" I wanted some space travel, not people in space getting horny out of a fucking virus and then fucking each other.
Yeah, well, if this is how you feel about Next Generation, good luck with Lower Decks.
but Lower Decks, I'm actually in the mindset for that. In Next Generation, I wasn't expecting that.
It's that and the Kelvin films are two of the things from Kurtzman Trek I will freely recommend to people regardless. It's like, I've had my ups and downs with Picard, Discovery, and Strange New Worlds. I've had my ups and downs with those shows, but like, if there's any two things from Kurtzman era Star Trek I will recommend to people wholeheartedly, it's the Kelvin films and Lower Decks. I will always recommend those two.
I'm excited to watch Lower Decks.
Yeah, let me just say, they're not perfect, but like the Kelvin films, in my opinion, there's more good than bad in Lower Decks. There's more good than bad in the Kelvin films. There's good and bad. And same for Lower Decks. There's good and bad, but I'd argue it leans more on good. So I would recommend it to people, despite some of my issues with it.
Yep. So, well, if the Kelvin films have R2D2 at some frame, why isn't it good?
Yeah, R2's the answer to everything.
Exactly. It lures in the people. Oh, R2? But you know what? You know what I was thinking with that? I was like, if they would have made that R2D2 cameo more present and more noticeable, wouldn't that have made the casual fans confused?
It probably would make the casual fans like it at first, but then over the years talk about how it's a dated reference and it's dumb, and then you'll have the purists that'll bitch about Star Wars influencing Star. It's like, yeah, it could do good for its time, but eventually I could just see the hate coming for it years later.
Yep. Unlike what happened with Jar Jar Binks, that at first everybody hated Jar Jar Binks, but then throughout the years, people still hate him, but they managed to accept him.
Well, here's what I'll say about old Jar Jar. Oh, you're talking about Jar Jar Binks. Okay, good. I thought you were talking about J.J. Abrams. You know, they made that mock name for him, Jar Jar Abrams.
I'm talking about literally Jar Jar Binks. People hated it to the point that the actor that voiced him almost committed suicide.
Yeah. I know. I felt bad for him when he almost did that. It's just there's a lot of miscommunication because, like, George and the prequel cast didn't blame fans, even though fans weren't innocent. They didn't blame fans. They blamed the media, and that's because the media was mass spamming fan opinions and trying to take advantage of the negativity towards the people towards the prequels for money and attention. So it was a popular topic. So they basically took advantage of it. And that's why George and most cast members for the prequels, they blamed the media. Because while there were people that hated the prequels as fans, there were also people that loved the prequels as fans. It was a very 50-50 scenario. It was just that the negativity got more media attention than the positivity. So that's why people think everyone hated them. But at the end of the day, the people that love the prequels, their love shined through, and now the prequels are more loved than ever. And I often hear people say, well, look, how can you believe this about the prequels but not say the same for the sequels? And my reasoning for why I don't think the sequels will have the same popularity the prequels do is because even if you didn't like the prequel trilogy films, ChatWave, like as a person, just saying hypothetical, not saying you don't like them, but even if you don't like those movies, the prequel era of Star Wars has so many things fans loved, from shows to games to books to comics to action figures to everything. That was a great era for Star Wars, despite the reception of those films, good or bad. But the sequel era for Disney Star Wars, the books didn't sell, the comics didn't sell, games had a hard time selling, toys. There were endless toys on shelves. So, and on top of that, you have enormous sequel hate, not just from fans, but many cast members have various thoughts about where the films went. It's like
Mark Hamill himself.
Yeah, Mark Hamill himself. I honestly, this is something we don't touch on it because we all hate Rey. I know I hate Rey, but Daisy Ridley herself wasn't a big fan of the direction they took her character in The Last Jedi. She agreed with Mark Hamill on the direction they went the movie. So it's like, looking at all of that, there's not much positive elements to the sequels compared to the prequels. And many of the demographics they tried to hit, at least from my account, don't seem invested. I talk to young people, they're not interested in Disney Star Wars. Most of them are into older Star Wars or other stuff like games. So it's like, I even tried to get kids into Disney Star Wars. They didn't care for it. And lots of women, like, how do you feel about Rey? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? I tell you, man, Kylo Ren is the only character any of these women talk about. So yeah, they don't. Yeah. They either, like, most of them. Actually, not most of them. All of them I've met, they either don't care about Rey or they don't like her character. So it's like, right then and there, we're in a scenario where Disney's main demographics were women, modern women, and young people, like next generation kids. And both of them don't really care much for Disney Star Wars as a whole, not just the sequel trilogy, Disney Star Wars. So it's like, looking at that itself, no wonder profits went down, and no wonder Disney Star Wars keeps course correcting it, or trying to course correct itself. So for those reasons, I don't see the sequels getting the same treatment the prequels did. But maybe I'm completely wrong, and in maybe 10 or 20 years, the sequels will get the love the prequels got. But here's the thing. Force Awakens came out in 2015. It's 2024. We're pretty close to a decade since those sequels started, and reception for these movies is the same. I'm not telling you that it'll never change, but it's not looking too good at this time.
No. And the only thing I give credit to Disney is the fact that we have all this Disney Plus content that gave us the Mandalorian. That's all I can say. And even the Mandalorian is just post original trilogy, so it's no sequel there.
Yeah.
And the most acclaimed video game of Star Wars nowadays, which
Holy shit. Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting you. 2024, I just subtracted that by 2015. 9 years. We're close to 9 years since The Force Awakens started. And we still have people like me bitching about The Last Jedi. I don't have a good feeling for for Disney Star Wars the sequel trilogy. I really don't.
No.
But who knows? Maybe it's going to take another 10 years for these movies to get appreciated.
Probably. I think
maybe.
I think what Disney should do is just go another direction and just keep doing the Mandalorian stuff and keep exploring those unexplored characters and just keep it that way, like how they did with Andor, with Mandalorian, and so on and so forth.
I mean, Disney has burned so many bridges with fans that even if they make quality, the ratings are not high for Disney Star Wars content. Like Andor is a well-received show. The quality, it's being praised for that reason. But that alone, the ratings were so low, they had to start putting it on network television at some point, the first season. It's the same thing with X-Men 97. Mostly well-received. The show is mostly loved. There's some controversy, but people said it's good writing, good characters, everything. But the ratings are low. And this is telling me that Disney, through their various controversies over the decade, have annoyed and angered so many audience members that even if they produce something of quality, it's going to be a struggle to make it a success.
Mm-hmm. In my opinion, my favorite so far, other than The Mandalorian of the Disney Plus content, has been Andor. And I love that style of, that style of Star Wars storytelling where it was more grounded, more realistic, and was just some dudes trying to make it in the world.
Right.
Instead of just having this Luke Skywalker lookalike, because that's what literally they try to do with Rey. They just try to make another Luke Skywalker but female, made her the hero, and it flopped.
They failed. And they failed because Rey is not like Luke Skywalker. And I'm not saying that because she's a chick. I'm saying that because her character, she fails upwards. It's kind of like a lot of people today. They fail upwards. Rey does not train, but she does not train for the most part, but she gets new powers each film. And she does not really have to struggle because the plot just keeps giving her ways out of trial and strife. So it's like every time, even if there's an inch of struggle, she comes out on top instantly and she's amazing. It's all about how amazing Rey is. And the sequel trilogy, her arc is discovering herself, finding her place in the universe. It's like, you can see this in the writing too. It's not even subtle. It's like you have Kylo Ren telling Rey at the end of The Last Jedi that you're not a part of this story. You come from nothing. And it's not the fact that Rey's parents or nobodies was that reveal in The Last Jedi. It was the fact that Kylo Ren in the dialogue literally in Disney Star Wars, and it does not work for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Rey fundamentally. If you wanted her to be like Luke Skywalker, you could have literally just copied all the story beats from his character, implemented them into hers. And I'm not saying she'd be well-renowned and loved instantly, but she'd probably be more accepted if she was actually like Luke Skywalker than this, I'd say, empty shell of what's supposed to be a character.
Actually, I heard an interview with Daisy, and she clearly said the script per episode of Star Wars, each installment was completely different of who I was and what I was supposed to do and be. And it just tells you that not even the writers knew where they wanted to take Rey as a character.
No, they went in all sorts of directions. And I feel bad for Daisy. Even though I am not a big fan of her character, I strongly feel bad for the fact that she could have given an amazing performance for the character if she was just well written, but unfortunately that wasn't the case.
Yeah, because an actress or an actor can do so much when the script is just a pile of crap.
In my opinion, her acting gets worse in each sequel film, but I don't blame her own skill for that. I mainly blame the writing of Disney Star Wars. I think the writing confused her, and as a result, she wasn't giving her best because she was given such shit content to work off of.
In a way, it would have made a better story if she would have actually fallen to the dark side and kept that path consistently.
Yeah, even then, people would have been more invested in her character.
Do like a female Anakin kind of thing, but well done.
Hey, that was my personal theory. Like, everyone had their Rey theory. How does Rey get her powers without training? Like, how does she just get her powers from Kylo Ren and stuff? And my theory was that she's a reincarnation of Anakin. You know, like, the Force got out of balance again, and they needed the Chosen One to do it over again, so they remade Anakin and Rey as Rey, and maybe just gave her master Force abilities automatically to get the job done faster or something. That was like one of my theories, because Rey's supposed to be this special awakening in the Force that's unlike anything ever, and because that's how she was written. And considering that context, I was like, what if she's just a reincarnation of Anakin? But no, she's just Palpatine's weird science experiment granddaughter that's also meant to exist because she's meant to counter Kylo Ren's strength in the dark side with the light side. Rey's origin makes no sense to me.
It does not. And that meme that Rey made out with her cousin
She did.
It just outright baffles me.
No, it's space incest, because in those Disney wanted to convince fans she's a Skywalker so bad they released these comics to just make it even worse. One, they revealed that after Empire Strikes Back, Palpatine already had Exegol and those planet-destroying Star Destroyers, which makes you say, why the fuck didn't he use this shit instead of his half-baked Death Star 2? He would have won the war and beat the rebels, so that was retarded. And on top of that, Palpatine had his hands on Luke's severed hand in those comics when Vader went to Exegol and saw it. So it's like part of what went into the Palpatine's own cloning was Luke's DNA. So they tried to explain away that she's a Skywalker because she has some DNA by Luke's severed hand. So it's like, by doing that, when you ship Kylo and Rey in your canon stories, they are cousins. And that just completely fucking made this even weirder.
Were they trying to like continue the tradition that since Luke Skywalker made out with his sister, we have to make something that's a little more acceptable?
Why not? You know what? I'm willing to believe. At first, I thought that was a ridiculous theory, man. But I'm willing to believe that because I'm hearing rumors that the mainstream is trying to make incest more appealing.
Oh God! Oh God!
But these are rumors. I don't know how true this is. I'm just hearing people saying.
Are they trying to make the Arkansas people and the Alabamas be all accepted?
Maybe. I mean, you know, like I said, it's all just rumor. But if it's true that they're trying to make people more comfortable with incest, and the whole Reylo stuff starts to make sense, because in the early contest for the sequel trilogy, Rey and Kylo were basically the sibling children of Han and Leia, and they were the grandchildren of Anakin Skywalker. So by the concept of the story, they were originally siblings. I don't know why they changed this in the process of doing the sequel trilogy, but this was the original plan in Luke's sequel trilogy, that Han and Leia would have children. They'd be the grandchildren of Anakin Skywalker, and they would be the next generation that Luke has to train along with Leia. I don't know why they didn't use Lucas's ideas and made Rey and Kylo this pairing. None of it makes sense. They honestly make more sense as siblings than lovers, in my opinion. So this makes less sense, you know, when you go into it.
You know what's sad about this?
What?
You know the parody film of Star Wars, Thumb War.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Spaceballs.
No, I'm going even more obscure. Thumb Wars.
Yeah.
That makes even more sense than the sequel trilogy, and that's sad to admit.
Anything makes more sense than the sequel trilogy.
My dad taking a turd, my dog taking a turd, it makes more sense.
Agreed.
And that's literally what the sequel is. I enjoy the sequels, and I can watch all of them many times, but I do see the flaws. And one thing my girlfriend said to me once was like, you know why we relate to some of the characters of the sequel trilogy is because some of them have connection to past characters. Like, for example, Kylo Ren has Leia and Han Solo, and we deeply love those characters, and that's how we get connected with some of those characters. But do we really care about them after the film is done and we are seeing the credits? Not really.
No. Honestly, the sequel trilogy just Disney Star Wars just keeps taking L's. Like, the reason why Ben Solo was given to Luke by Han and Leia was because he would do these force tantrums as a child. He would get very aggressive and cause all this havoc and destruction with his force tantrums. And they gave Ben to Luke to, calm him down and stuff. And in the early part of Disney canon, Leia chose to get into politics instead of train under Luke like she does in the EU or Lucas's plans for a sequel trilogy where Luke trains Leia in Episode 9. So in the early Disney canon, Leia did not have any Force training at all. But by doing that retcon in The Last Jedi, where Luke taught her some Force ability so she's able to soar through space, and then they added to the retcon in Rise of Skywalker by saying she trained with Luke a little bit, they character assassinated Leia because she could have helped Ben with his Force tantrum since she has trained with the Force in these retcons instead of just throwing him away to his uncle.
Right.
She could have helped him control his powers. It's like you turned Leia into a bitch.
Into a Mary Poppins bitch.
Yeah, why? She was like, it made sense when you said she didn't get Jedi training because she didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to deal with Ben, so she gave him to Luke. That made sense. But by retconning it and telling us that she did get training from Luke for some reason, now you're telling me that Leia could have helped Ben learn how to control his abilities at a young age, but chose to just throw him away to his uncle.
It's like when you have a kid and you're like, too annoying. Hey, uncle, here, solve the problem. I'm not going to deal with this shit. I don't care about that. That's an annoyance. Fuck off. Little kid, not my problem. It's your problem now. Maybe that's why Luke Skywalker at some point wanted to smack Kylo Ren with a lightsaber. Like, I don't like this kid. This kid's too hard to train.
Right. So I'm just gonna
end it right there. I'm just gonna end it right there. I'm just gonna end it right there. Fuck this shit. I'm out.
You should have seen that meme where Luke tells Ben, "I can't kill my own father. I can kill a nephew, though."
Well, you see in the prequel trilogy, we know that killing younglings it's not a hard thing to do.
No, it is not. No, sirree. So let me get this straight, Luke. You can't kill the space dictator, which committed all sorts of genocide because he's your daddy. But you can kill your nephew for possibly going evil and doing horrible things in your head, in your visions, or whatever.
I would have done it right
I'm
there.
like,
if I might say so myself.
You would have just killed him.
I would like, whoops, and then tripped my lightsaber. Whoops, I tripped and fell. There was a rock in the way. Sorry.
Wow. Oh, you mean you would have just killed Vader?
No, I mean Kylo.
Oh, Kylo.
Just so that Kylo wouldn't do half of the things he would do.
He wouldn't have done them in the first fucking place if Luke didn't attempt to kill him. That was the final nail in the coffin. The irony is that Luke saw these visions and Snoke was influencing Ben somehow. I don't know how, through the Force. And, like, Luke could have stopped it by just being a fucking Jedi Grand Master and not, like, believing in Force visions. Because, ironically, he made it a reality. The problem is there's no written explanation as to how Luke forgot some of the most basic rules of being a Jedi, rules he learned in the original trilogy, in fact, how he regressed to this state of embarrassment and shame. How did this happen? I don't know. And the books and comics don't explain it either. It's like, according to The Last Jedi, Luke started believing in the legend of Luke Skywalker, so pride. Pride is the only base level explanation. But how did Luke get prideful? So it's like these films, this canon does not give you a justified reason for Luke turning into the horrible mess we got.
Nope. It's a jumble of mess. It's even more.
It's just shitty
it's
writing.
even more messier than Jumanji itself.
Yeah,
I think Jumanji makes more sense than playing Jumanji and getting through all those convoluted events makes more sense than whatever they did with the sequel trilogy. Like the sequel trilogy, I think if each film would have been standalone and would have been like those Star Wars story films, it would have made more sense because each film is different.
The first Jumanji movie and the second one make more sense in the confusion and the wacky adventures than the sequel.
For sure it does. Oh God, I think the USS Enterprise destroying the Millennium Falcon or vice versa makes more sense than the sequel trilogy.
Oh yes, that is true. I concur, my good man.
I rest my case right there. It's said and done.
Yeah.
Writers, am I right? They can't get their shit right.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes I wonder if it was literally the writers or it was just the creatives behind the writers that decided, nope, scrap that.
Everyone, every single person. And even the people I like. Like I'm still a pretty big Dave. Well, not a big. Yeah, I used to be a bigger Dave Filoni fan, but now I'm just an average Dave Filoni fan. But it's like, even him, they literally put him on the set of the sequel trilogy, and he just nodded his head saying, "Oh, this is cool, and just like he was even okay with Last Jedi Luke, or Jake as I like to call him, because in his opinion, he compared this to Lord of the Rings. He imagined Frodo would go insane after the events of Return of the King, because Frodo needed help with all the war trauma, so he thinks that's what happened to Luke. But it's like, Dave, if you watch the ending of Return of the Jedi, Luke is not traumatized. He is a master. He has become a new man. He is wise. It's like, this is a misunderstanding. So it's like, everyone, even the people you like in Disney Star Wars right now, who are in older Lucasfilm or just new in general, all of them played a role in the mess we're in. It's like everyone. Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, everyone.
Kathleen Kennedy is the biggest one that has screwed us over many times.
Honestly, yeah, I agree. She is the top dog, but her and Bob Iger mainly rejecting Lucas's sequel treatments is what kickstarted this whole entire mess.
No.
I heard rumors that JJ tried to get Lucas more involved in the sequel trilogy. I don't know how true that is, but I heard rumors about it. And if it is true, then I won't be as harsh on JJ as I usually am.
JJ, I don't know. JJ tends to remake things into like a questionable remake.
Yeah, I don't mind the remakes. It's the issue is his mystery boxes and his concepts. There's no substance. They're cool ideas, but there's nothing for a complete story. The dude's not that creative in layman's terms.
Yep, he's like in the music industry, the equivalent of someone that only does covers and never makes an original song. And then when you try to make him do an original song, he can't even do a single note.
Yeah, the dude's very technological. I've seen him go into whole lectures on TED Talks about how film equipment works. So he seems to be smart when it comes to tech, film wise, but story and special effects. But story, characters, I would say that's not his strong suit.
When I used to study radio, there were two things I would do the most. There were this type of thing that we're doing right now, a talk show, Or literally, let's make a story with no visuals, just sound effects and narration and voice actors. And by all means, I was always away as far as I could from the script because I had creativity when it came to like sound design, soundtracks. I could compose a whole song for a whole audio drama and make nice edits for the voices and put the effects and everything. But making up the story myself, like the dialogues, oh no, I can give you the core idea, and the core idea could be really amazing. But fleshing it out as a full-fledged production, no, keep me out. And some people should understand that if you're not good writing the story, but you can give a good idea, just give the good idea. Walk away and do your thing. Don't try to step in someone else's shoes and ruin it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think it all comes down to the fact that while we may praise individuals specifically for what they've brought to stuff, the reality is these fields are very collaborative efforts, and so many people are working together as a team to make what we love and what we call art. So it's like if we just start praising one person and forget about the rest, we're going to basically be confused when that one person doesn't hold up to our expectations. And this is not me saying that these individuals did nothing without the help of others. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it was through the combined teamwork of this individual and other people that led to the products we love. Not taking away anything unique or special from them, but most things we enjoy in entertainment are often the result of a team effort.
I was watching the other day on YouTube these videos of I don't remember what soundtrack the guy worked on, but the thing is, he said, I think it was I don't remember. The thing is, he said, when I do my soundtracks, I usually have a music editor, and the music editor's job is to grab whatever I composed and chop it into pieces to make it fit the film. And not just that, but sometimes they would ask me for the stems and remix the whole thing into something completely different. Probably grab the drums from soundtrack number 1 to soundtrack number 2 with the melody of soundtrack number 2, and then mash them and make a whole completely new thing. And that is why when you listen to a soundtrack on itself on Spotify, Apple Music, or a CD or a vinyl or a cassette, you have a different experience from what we see in the film. And what I'm trying to get at is that everything has a team. Every section of a film has a team, and those teams sometimes change things completely from what the original one had in mind.
Right.
Sometimes he said sometimes I will make a really pretty song for a film or a scene, and at the end of the day, the music editor turns it into a more dramatic thing instead of being beautiful and sad. And sometimes it changes the whole direction of the whole scene in films. But anyways, I'm getting towards the end of the show here, and to finish it off, let's wrap up our ideas. Millennium Falcon versus USS Enterprise. Who would win? Fair fight or not a fair fight?
Enterprise. It's like and that's all I don't care. Fair fight, not fair fight. Enterprise just has more advantages stats wise.
All right. I do agree that the Enterprise has more advantages towards the Millennium Falcon, and I think Star Trek spaceships are more advanced. Any spaceship from Star Trek is more advanced than the Star Wars ones.
Correct.
And I do think that no matter which one you choose, it could be the slave throwing those bombs. It could be the slave, and there's still no chance for a...
You know what? The slave one might have an advantage. Those bombs, they cause they have quite a punch.
They do. But what if the Enterprise puts the deflector and then the bomb deflects back to the slave one?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, good point. I would say the best advantage the Slave One has is if the Enterprise just wasn't familiar with the ship, and it got a shot on the Enterprise without them being prepared, knowing what it is and knowing what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that for the most part, I might just do a poll and put it on my page and get things running there and let people decide where are the end results for this. But the USS Enterprise seems to be winning no matter what contender from the Star Wars franchise I put against. For some reason, it just has more advanced technology. And it's a sad reality as a Star Wars fan. I can't believe that I like Star Trek, but not as much as Star Wars. And it's sad that my favorite franchise is losing at this.
Hey, look, you heard it here, folks, from two massive Star Wars fans that love Star Wars way more than Star Trek. Both of us, we both do. I said it earlier. I love Star Wars. I'm a fan of both, but I love Star Wars infinite times more than Star Trek. I just can't see how the Falcon wins in most scenarios.
Nope. Even doing the Kessel Run. Wouldn't.
Yeah, you know what? The Enterprise might beat the Falcon in speed alone.
It wins in every point and direction. So, folks, you can tell me whatever you want in the comment section, but I think the USS Enterprise is going to win. Takes it round one.
Yeah, make your poll. The Falcon might win the poll based on popularity alone. Just saying.
Probably. That could be a thing. I'm going to throw it on the two groups that I am in. I have a Star Wars group that they discuss all Star Wars stuff on Twitter here. And I'm also on two Star Trek ones. I'll see what they all like to point out from the poll there. So, yeah. Anyways, thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for being awesome. I'm Adam Van Zark, and this year's Safe Space is good Star Wars, music, and other geeky topics. And now we added Star Trek. So we got two of the same worlds fighting each other. It's been a long time since Star Wars and Star Trek have been fighting each other. And I think I'm going to put an end to this. Let's make them all come together. They shouldn't be arguing and fighting. Whatever. If Picard wants to beam up and punch Luke at the face, by all means. If Luke Skywalker wants to use the Force and push Picard somewhere else, whatever. I don't care. Do what you got to do. But we have to stop the fight within Star Trek and Star Wars and make it a Trek war. Make it all come together.
I agree. It's just like I personally believe DC and Marvel should just fuse into one. I also personally believe just fuse Star Wars and Star Trek together. That's a great idea in my opinion.
Exactly. So, as always, I'm signing out. Live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you. Bye.
Indeed.
This is a communication channel. We're picking up a faint but persistent signal.
Unite for the sound revolution in Galactic ChatWave Radio. Support Anna Razark's original tunes, the polls of our online radio station, and keep the news blazing like Beskar.
Click, donate, and hit that PayPal button and join the watch. Keep the tunes alive. This is the way.